Hi everyone, welcome to our webinar today. Hopefully you should be able to see the screen. We're just letting everybody filter in. We'll give everyone 30 seconds or a minute or so before we start the webinar properly. Just for those entering, I can see we've still got people flooding in, which is good to see. We'll give everyone 30 seconds or so just to let numbers pop up. I can see there's quite a few people now entering, which is great. Fantastic. Looks like we've stabilized. Oh, as I say that, a bunch of more people have just come in. I'll give everyone another 10 seconds or so just to let everyone find their virtual seats. Brilliant, right. Should we make a start then? So hello everyone. So I'm Daniel O'Shaughnessy. I'm the head of program delivery for the Digital Care Hub. If you see me look over to my screen over here, that's where I've got the presentation. So welcome to our webinar. It's funded by the Department of Science, Innovation and Technology. As you're probably familiar with, we're Digital Care Hub. We're a consortium of different providers, and we're a not-for-profit that supports providers, particularly in adult social care, to help digitize, to help with cybersecurity, to help make sure we've got the right data protection policies and procedures and practice and culture in place across our sector. We're also joined today by Naomi Haynes in partnership with the Northwest Cyber Resilience Centre, so the police-led body. And this is our webinar funded by DCIT to run through a bit of a cyber simulation of what would happen if we had a cyber attack in one of our services. And there'll be a bit of a sort of choose your own adventure game where you'll see some Zoom polls, so do get your clicker ready. Where you'll be able to pick what options, and we'll go with the option that the majority pick with, and we'll see what some of the consequences would have been for the actions that we didn't pick as well. So that's our quick introduction. I go to the next slide. So really quick bit on some technical issues. So you're all on mute. None of your videos are visible, so please don't worry if you're having a bit of a late lunch or whatever it may be. Nobody can see you. We can't hear you. If you do want to ask us some questions, you can either pop things in the chat, or we might ask you to use the Q&A function. If you're on a phone or a tablet, you may want to tap on the screen. You may have to choose more or the three little dots, and then you should see Q&A pop up there. Please leave your email onto the Q&A between myself, Sam and Naomi. We're fairly knowledgeable, but we don't know everything. So it may be that we've got to go back, find out the answer and come back to you. So if you add your email to the Q&A, it really helps us be able to come back to you. The webinar won't last longer than 1 hour, and you will get access to the presentations, including all of the links that are available in those as well. So to go over a quick agenda, so we'll have Naomi from the Cyber Resilience Centre do a bit of an introduction, talk through what the Cyber Resilience Centre offers. We'll have a little look at what we're calling Cyber Resilient Care, so the programme that we've got funded by Department for Science, Innovation and Technology. Why this matters to us. You know, we're all really busy delivering care on a day-to-day basis, but we know that cyber attacks are an existential threat to our organisation. And then we'll go into the scenario itself. We'll run through a few rounds of different choices, look at some key takeaways, and then that's when we'll be able to sit down and really take some questions and answers. So hopefully that makes sense. So first, I think it's a bit of a presentation by Naomi. So if I stop sharing for you, Naomi,
Thank you.
It should give you the ability to share.
That's great. Just bear with me. So, sorry, you might just see yourselves for a second. And slideshow. Can you all see that slideshow there?
Yep, brilliant.
Yes, perfect. Right, great. Hello, everybody. My name's Naomi Haynes. Just going to make this box smaller in the corner. I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but is that okay still?
Yep, so good.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. So my name is Naomi Haynes. I'm the commercial manager at the Northwest Cyber Resilience Centre. So I'm just going to talk through a little bit about who we are and what we're doing. So we are a police-led business. We're led by the Northwest Regional Organised Crime Unit. They are the overarching sort of force for the Northwest that deal with all serious crimes such as guns, drugs, organised gangs and cybercrime. So just to give you a little bit of an idea of how serious cybercrime is and how serious the police are taking it. The Cyber Resilience Centres are set up to help support businesses and organisations in building resilience in order to prevent an attack, essentially. We understand that not every business or organisation has the means or the knowledge or the confidence to deal with cybersecurity, so this is why we exist. Okay, so in terms of the network, we're one of 9 centres across England and Wales, so you can see all the centres there. So if you're not from the Northwest today, obviously there will be a relevant centre in your area, and you can just obviously have a look at that list there. But if you need any help finding that centre, please do let me know. A couple of our regional partners who work with us and support the work that we're doing are listed here. So just a quick stop, because I know this will be covered throughout the talk. The risks to organisations and what do they look like in terms of cybersecurity. So 50% of businesses report having cyber breaches in 2024. So it's massive, it's everywhere. These are the ones that we know about. So in terms of reporting, we do know that businesses are struggling to report. Maybe they don't know who to report to. Do they have the confidence in reporting? Are they frightened? Are they fearful of reporting it? So we do know that that figure is probably a little bit higher, but even so, 50% is still really large in terms of the amount of cyber breaches that are happening. An estimated 7.78 million cyber crimes in the last year is absolutely huge. Anyone that's been a victim of a cybercrime will know the impact that it has on day-to-day life, business, running services, supporting people. It can cause massive disruption. So the amount of cybercrimes that are happening is absolutely huge. In terms of adult social care, the data that you're handling, it's really, really sensitive information, personal information, medical history, information about staff and suppliers. This is your currency. This information is really valuable to cyber criminals. The more you hold, more information you hold, the more sensitive it is, the more valuable it is. In today's world, cybersecurity isn't just an IT issue, it's a collective responsibility that requires the involvement of every team member to play their part. Understanding how users, staff and suppliers play their part in keeping organisations safe from cyber attacks is imperative to reducing cyber risk. So some of the biggest threats is number 1, phishing, absolutely huge. We're all impacted by it every day. I ask people when we go out and about talking to businesses, has anybody ever had a cyber attack? And sometimes a lot of people will say, no, it's been lucky, it's not really happened to me. But what I will say is, if you've ever received a phishing email, then that is an attempted cyber attack to get information from you, get data from you, or install some sort of malware by sending you dodgy links. Social media takeovers as well are a risk to business. So if you are using your social media accounts to run business or run your organisation, share important information, urgent updates, and your accounts are taken over, that will cause a massive disruption to your services. And ransomware is where an account will be locked out. So usually done via phishing. If someone has clicked on a link and installed malware, it basically means they'll lock all the systems out, you've got no access to anything, and they will demand a ransom in order to return the access back to yourselves. And then you've got fraud and impersonation as well. So there's a lot of challenges to deal with when it comes to cybersecurity. So just a couple of case studies. I'll just quickly go through the first one, just to give you An example of the WannaCry ransomware attack that was deployed malware to over 200,000 computers in over 100 countries. This impacted the NHS in England, Scotland, and it was basically due to not updating systems. So there was a weakness reported, there was a patch sent out to update the operating system, but because the updates wasn't done, the NHS systems were impacted. Huge cost was involved. It was estimated around £20 million during the outbreak, and then an additional 72 million to restore data and systems. So massive, massive impact. And that's one of the big ones that most people talk about. The ones that you don't hear about, the little ones that are happening every day. So impacts: financial loss, data loss, disruption to services, loss of services. So how can we help? So in terms of how we can support you, raising awareness of cybercrime. So the very fact that you're here today, super important. You're here to hear about it, learn more about it, educate yourselves on what you can do differently and improve. So you're absolutely starting off to a great start there. We can support in building to build resilience and defences. We offer affordable cybersecurity services. So we understand that everyone's not got big, massive budgets for cybersecurity. So we do ours at cost, and we work with partners that might be able to support further where we can't. Just to start you off, we offer a free membership. We will update you on the latest threats and trends, the latest advice of what you need to do, and it's completely free to be a part of that. And there's a list of some of the services that we offer there as well, in terms of the at-cost services, if you needed them. That's everything from me. Thank you very much. My name's Naomi. If you wish to sign up, the QR code is there. But obviously, if you don't get a chance to do it now, we'll put the information in later on. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Naomi. That sets us up perfectly, I think, to go into, if I just share my screen again, there we go, into our cyber resilient care phishing scenarios. And I'll hand over now to Sam, our technical cyber lead for Digital Care Hub.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much for that. Well, I was going to introduce myself, but I've already had it. My name's Sam, the Technical Cyber Lead for Digital Care Hub. Currently splitting my time between the Digital Care Hub and also another cyber resilience centre in the northeast. So sort of half police, half with you. Just wanting to help out and build resilience across an incredible sector. You guys have resilience coming out of your ears with all sorts of areas, and I just want to help bring some of the cyber side of that, which is why we're going to go through some of this. So why is resilience in particularly important at the moment, rather than just cyber in general? Well, it's crucial because it's no longer a question of if an attack will happen, but when an attack will happen. And when it does, your ability to withstand, respond, and recover under immense pressure could define your organization's very survival in some cases. This is why in this particular phishing scenario, it's already too late to stop the actual phishing. Some of the major things that's happening in the sector at the moment, there's a growing threat of phishing in UK social care environments. The cost of living crisis doesn't just hit all of us, it hits the bad actors as well. So they're increasing their net of who they're going to target. There's risk to highly sensitive personal data and finances. You guys know what you deal with, how you deal with it, and the amount of confidence that people have in you. That data that you hold is incredibly important. And obviously the role of non-technical managers in quickly identifying and escalating issues. It's like speaking another language, cyber, IT, and things like that. Suddenly having to grow up through care and then trying to understand all this new terminology. That's why we're here. That's why we're going to try and help. And that's why we're going to go through this. You'll realize as we go through this, most of it is common sense. You know this stuff. It's just getting it inbuilt so that you can react quickly if anything unfortunately does happen. So Dan, if you could go to the next slide, please. I always feel very important saying that. It's fun. So the situation in this particular thing, staff member has accidentally paid an invoice to a fake supplier after receiving a phishing email. Now, you as a non-technical manager or a lead in this area, find out after the payment has been processed. And now you need to decide how you're going to respond to this. You can see the phishing email there. Fun fact, when I actually built this fake phishing email, I can just assure you it is fake when I built it, my antivirus kept deleting it every time I sent it to myself. So I had to take a screenshot very, very quickly before it got deleted again. So make sure you've got good antivirus and it'll stop even fake ones like this. So as you can see, dear valued customer, you can already see that this is something fishy because it's not naming by name. Goes through it. That's the phishing email that has been fallen for. But in this case, you didn't see the phishing email. It's just afterwards. So Dan, if you move on to our first options. So this is a screen that you'll get used to. We'll have 3 rounds of this. This first one is your immediate reaction to this. What do you do first? So you've just discovered that a staff member has paid a fake supplier. The invoice might be of a significant amount and the staff member is worried they're going to get into trouble. You've got 4 possible responses in this. Do you immediately contact your IT supplier and your bank to investigate and secure systems and attempt to recall payment? Do you B, ignore it and give the staff member an official warning for failing to follow correct policy? Do you C, investigate on your own, take your time to review the staff members' emails and invoices carefully to confirm it really is a scam before making any further decisions? Or D, do you contact the bank to recall the payment, hold off engaging IT for now, just until you know for certain what's actually happened? I can tell you from experience, my personal thing for this is always going to be C. I'm a very cautious person. I don't know if it's my cyber background, but my automatic go-to is going to be C, to be cautious. So yeah, if you can see the voting now, pop that in there. Oh, you can see the instructions as well. The Zoom poll should be fairly self-explanatory, but this is fantastic. It's always worth bearing in mind with things like this. Don't forget that you don't know the unknowns. It's never difficult to reach out for help. And I know I've put IT supplier, but that could be an internal team or it could be somebody that you use on a regular basis. Well, so far, Dan, I don't know if you're wanting to end the poll soon, but we've got an overwhelming response at the moment. It looks like most people have picked A, immediately contact your IT supplier, which is fantastic. Now, just let you know, there's no wrong answer in these. When you're under an incident, all sorts of things are going to go through your head. There's going to be different priorities. So in this case, there isn't really a wrong answer, but I've tried to build it so that there's usually a stronger response and a slightly weaker response. And we'll go through that because every possible response has its strengths and weaknesses. Even the ones I believe to be the strongest have negatives to them. So Dan, if you want to go to the first feedback. So option A, which the majority you picked, fantastic, well done. I do believe this is the strongest one. Quickly go through this screen because there's a lot of text on there. First of all, it just shows you what you've actually picked. So in this case, immediately contact your IT supplier and your bank to investigate and secure systems and attempt to recall the payment. Then on the left-hand side, you can see a smiley face. Those are the positives of this choice. On the right, you see the frowny face. Those are potential negatives of this choice. And then in the middle, you've got a sort of a summary of what happens. And then at the bottom, you can see what actually happens in this particular scenario. So let's see, you've picked option A, immediately contact your IT supplier and bank to investigate and secure systems and attempt to recall the payment. What are the positives with this? You've got a higher chance of recovering funds or at least minimizing the loss. It's proactive security. You address potential ongoing threats quickly, and its transparent communication can reassure staff and prevent panic or a blame culture. There are some negatives, however. Immediate coordination might temporarily disrupt other work while you're getting this sorted. And it could create short-term alarm if staff misunderstand your urgency. If you haven't clearly said this is something happening, and you can't always tell everything what's happening, they'll just see you rushing about, and it can cause a bit of panic. So in summary, you've moved quickly on both the financial and security fronts. Bank may freeze or reverse the payment, and your IT supplier can check for any deeper breaches. Staff see you taking decisive action, which boosts confidence, and the anxious employee feels supported rather than punished, reducing fear across the team. So in this particular case, because you acted swiftly, the fake supplier's account is flagged, and no one else will fall victim. Bank manager manages to recall half of the funds, though the rest are sent abroad. This is just to show that even if you do everything right, not always everything is going to go 100%. Unfortunately, that's just a fact of some of the cyber attacks that can happen. You can do an amazing job, have everything covered, and still things might go wrong. Your IT supplier actually discovers that the PDF allowed an account takeover, but it is now contained. Morale stays steady since staff trust the organisation is prepared to handle mistakes without undue blame. So I say my personal option is this is probably the strongest way to respond to this. Contact as much as you can. So if we can go to the next option, please, and I'll show you some of the what happens with other ones. So if you'd have picked ignore it, but give the staff member an official warning for failing to follow policy. I know sometimes this is a knee-jerk reaction when somebody's done something wrong. Obviously try not to blame people, but there are some positives. It's a clear signal that policy violations do have consequences, and in the short term, the incident does get resolved rather promptly. So the negatives, I think, outweigh this, which is no real resolution of the underlying threat. The funds and the system still remain at risk. Damaged morale, staff fear reporting issues leading to worse problems down the line, and possible ongoing fraud if the scammer or any malicious access isn't contained. So in summary with this, you don't address the scam itself, so any financial or IT threats remain. Instead, you focus on disciplining the staff member. This can foster a fearful atmosphere where people worry more about punishment than alerting managers to potential breaches or mistakes. Now, over time, staff may hide mistakes to avoid repercussions, damaging team cohesion and trust. So in this particular case, staff member feels demoralized, unfortunately, and eventually leaves, obviously increasing turnover. Others, seeing the blame placed solely on that staff member, become reluctant to report future errors and mistakes. Meanwhile, the scammer remains undetected, having taken over the email account through a PDF that was never investigating. This leads to further exploits and significant losses for the organization. Okay, if we go to the next slide. Option C. So I say this is one that I'd be most comfortable with personally because I'm quite a cautious person. But again, so if you investigate on your own, take your time to review the staff member's email invoices carefully to confirm it's a scam before making any decisions. Positives this is less risk of overreacting if it turns out to be a smaller issue. And you do gain detailed knowledge of how the scam occurred, which might help later prevention strategies that you might build. Obviously, the negative is time loss. The bank can't attempt to recall if you wait too long. Unclear protocol, staff remains in limbo and potential breaches can go unchecked. And it's possible larger financial impact if additional fraudulent activity happens while you're investigating. So in summary, you do try to confirm the details personally, ensuring you won't raise a false alarm. However, this delay can be critical. If the fraudster has compromised more accounts or is planning another invoice scam, you lose valuable time that could be spent stopping further damage or recalling the funds. Staff member remains anxious, unsure whether they should speak to others or wait for your findings. So in this case, by the time you finish your private investigation, the scammer has moved the stolen funds to multiple overseas accounts, making recovery impossible. You learn the PDF also meant the staff member account was compromised and used to send further phishing using your organization's official email, resulting in even more confusion. Tiny little bit of insight here. I used to work in cyber for a major bank. I won't say who they are, but they may or may not have been Hong Kong, Shanghai based. And we get UARs, which is something called the Unusual Activity Report, all the time, and we act on them as quickly as possible to freeze accounts. When we're talking to other banks, if they're a major bank, they will listen to us. We say, we've seen unusual activity in that particular account. Can you please freeze it? But ultimately, it is a request, which is why when money zips so quickly away, it's sometimes impossible to recall that payment. Most banks will do their absolute best to do so, but sometimes it's just not possible, which is why acting quickly is quite often the best route of action. So if you go to next option, please, Dan.
Just to quickly interject, Sam, we've got one question that's relevant to this question, so I thought I'd bring it up now rather than at the end.
Yeah.
So Paul in the chat says, I appreciate there's no right answer, but if a scam has taken place, why would option C have been your preferred option when we were at the
Oh, I
start?
see. So it's just me personally. It's not my actual preferred option. The strongest one is A. I'm sorry, Paul. My bad. I worded that badly. It's just because I'm a very cautious person. I like to see the full picture before going public with something. So it's something I struggle with, and I need to work more towards being A than I would go towards C. But I just mean that for me personally, because I'm quite cautious, I'd struggle to have the confidence to go out and do stuff until I've actually looked at it myself. Glad that sort of answered that. But yeah, try not to pick C if you can. And option D, contact the bank to try and recall the payment, but hold off in engaging IT or alerting the rest of the team until you know for certain what has happened. Very similar to C, to be honest. It's just this one I've concentrated more on the money side of things. Positives is this, potential recovery of funds if the bank does act quickly, as I've said before. And it does avoid immediate panic or large-scale alerts, keeping day-to-day operations calmer in the short term. Obviously, you're already picking this up now. The negatives to that, unaddressed security risk. The attacker may still have valid credentials or access. Credentials is just login details that they've stolen via this PDF. Delayed staff awareness. Others in the organization remain vulnerable to ongoing scams or similar ones. And if multiple staff have clicked similar links, the breach might spread further before any IT people are involved. So you partially address a financial issue by contacting the bank, which may help recover some funds. However, the IT security side of funds remains unattended, allowing any compromised email or system access to persist. Staff also remain unaware of the phishing threats, so could fall similar to other scams. Original staff member feels isolated in their mistake, and the breach might expand. So the bank managed to freeze the payment just in time, saving you the funds, but the scammer has already taken over the email account using a malicious PDF. Using your own official email, they send more phishing emails undetected using your actual organization's email address, which is, it would bypass other people's filters because it's coming from a real email address. Days passed before the organization realized the full extent, forcing your IT supplier into a costly cleanup, adding thousands to expenses and increasing insurance premiums. Almost certainly, not guaranteed, but almost certainly. Okay, so if we can go to the next option. So you've had that initial gut-wrenching what's actually happened. It's now a day later. It's a day since the incident. Staff member, oh, I need to minimize that because otherwise I can't read. Staff member at fault is feeling guilty about this and rumours are starting to spread. And you must now decide how to communicate with both internal and external people. Again, you've got 4 options that you can vote on. Do you wait for official guidance from either senior management or your IT supplier before notifying anyone? Internally, just provide a brief heads up to staff that an issue has occurred. Do you go to B? I'm assuming most people will understand that it's probably not B, but you might do. We don't need the reputational hit on this. Downplay the incident, tell staff it was a technical issue that's been sorted, make no mention of it to anyone external unless absolutely forced. Reason I put this one in here, by the way, even though it's hopefully from looking at the other options, it seems this is probably the weakest. A lot of companies will do this. A lot of larger private companies have a big PR thing because they don't want the embarrassment of seeing, so it's just, oh, it's just a technical issue, don't worry about it, let's move on. And we want to try and build a culture of trust and openness, which is part of what this is going to be leaning towards. So option C, do you publicly announce the breach on your website and social media if you have it? Sharing the complete phishing email to show exactly how it happened. This transparency, you believe, will raise awareness and help others avoid the same scam. Or do you use your business continuity plan, which we all have, of course we do, to guide your communication? Internally, staff receive clear guidance on the incident and how to prevent it in the future. And externally, only those who were directly or indirectly affected are informed. Any report to regulators, such as ICO, if legally required, is also done. So let's have a quick look at that. I managed to minimize the actual poll so I can't see it. Let me see if I can find it.
We've got about 50 completed at the moment, so I'll leave it up for maybe another 10, 20 seconds, and then I'll do the share, Sam. See what we
Oh,
get to see.
fantastic. That's good. It wasn't something I did then. Apologize to everyone. I'm still trying to get used to Zoom again. I feel I've tried to make this one a little bit more tricky because there's some potentially answers that you could go through. I say that and everyone's overwhelmingly voted for D by the looks of it. Which is fantastic. Ah, well done. Yeah, if we go to the first one, if everyone's stopped voting now, that's fantastic. So yeah, option A, not a bad one. Wait for official guidance from senior management or your IT supplier before noting anyone externally. Internally, just provide a brief heads up to staff that an issue has occurred. Clue to this one is the internal, where you just say, it's just a technical issue, don't worry about it. Positives with this, consistency. You will have aligned messaging once management IT finalize the details. And it does avoid panic initially by controlling the flow of information carefully. However, the negatives is delay in informing any external stakeholders who may have had personal or information or financial at risk. Internally, staff only get partial information, which can fuel speculation. And it could appear that you're withholding the truth if people find out through other channels first. Other channels, the rumor mill, you know where that comes from. In summary, you do avoid confusion by waiting for an official stance. However, external stakeholders might remain in the dark longer, which could cause frustration or mistrust if they sense a cover-up. Internally, staff will only get minimal information. Now, by the time a formal statement is released, family members have heard rumors from staff and service users, and trust begins to erode because they weren't informed. Meanwhile, a suspicious-looking emails in the inbox appears, and somebody clicks on it. So it's a case of like, make sure you try and, you don't have, obviously don't give everything to staff, but make sure that you include enough so that you can learn from what happened. So if you would go to option B, please, Dan. Thank you. So this one, I don't think anybody voted for this. Fantastic job for this. But yeah, we don't need a reputational hit. Downplay the incident, pretend it didn't happen, ostrich the whole thing. I'm sure it'll be fine. Bad attitude to have. We all know how this happens. There is some positives. There's no immediate public fuss or external inquiries and minimal short-term disruption in daily operations. Obviously, negatives this, high risk of legal regulatory consequences if sensitive data was exposed, loss of trust from staff, families, and the community once the actual truth emerges, and it creates a culture of secrecy, discouraging staff from reporting future incidents. Summary, initially, you might avoid external questions or scrutiny as the breach remains a secret. Personal info was involved, like care records. Regulators like the ICO should be informed. Failing to do so can lead to severe penalties. Families or guests may lose trust if they learn of the breach later. And in this particular case, a family member overhears staff speculating about the phishing incident and raises concerns. After receiving unsatisfactory answers from your organisation, they escalate the issue, and a local journalist picks up the story, leading to an external investigation and severe reputational damage. Okay, if we go to option C, please.
So,
Yep. Oh, I heard somebody say "sap," and then it stopped.
yes, Sam, we're getting just, I think, a little bit of feedback from your microphone. I don't know whether you just want to quickly plug, unplug, or mute,
I'll
unmute it.
try that. Thank you for letting me know.
It's all right.
I'll move back. Is that any better at all?
I think that's considerably better, I think, as far as we can tell.
Thank you, Anne. What I'll do is I'll step away from my computer, see if that helps.
There we go. Yeah.
Oh, now you
Got
can
level
see
set.
my Pink Floyd top, but ignore that. I'm very professional. So option B, don't need to have to. Oh, we've done this one. Fantastic. I don't think anybody picked this, which is good. Yeah, option C, announce everything, full transparency. Now, there are some positives to this. Maximum transparency. People do get a real life example of the phishing email, which can be educational. Immediate awareness. Everyone, both inside and outside, sees how the scam works in real life. Negatives to this. Staff privacy is compromised. Even if you didn't intend to name and shame, publishing the full email does so inadvertently. Reputational risk. Publicly revealing internal emails may be seen as disorganized or careless with sensitive information, and it could be exploited by other criminals who glean insights, examples such as staff naming conventions in the emails or internal references to craft and hone in other phishing emails, which are more precise to your communication techniques, which is always worrying. Summary, by publishing the entire email, including the staff member's email address, you do unintentionally reveal who was targeted. This may embarrass the staff member or expose further data. Publicizing the email's content might give other scammers clues about your organizational structure as well. So in this case, the community sees the real name of the staff member in the to field. Staff member feels humiliated and complains about privacy violations. Meanwhile, media coverage escalates, focusing on the exposed staff details rather than the scam prevention message that you intended originally. Okay, if we go to the next one. Use the business content. I think everyone voted for this. Fantastic. Yeah, you all know this one. This is great. This is why it's so useful having a business continuity plan. All the positives. Transparency. People affected get timely, accurate information. It protects privacy. Staff members' name isn't broadcast, reducing blame and morale issues. Any regulatory compliance is stuck to and adhered to correctly. Some negatives. Some will still be upset or worried about a breach. Any incident could cause concern. You know this already, how you work. You can't please everyone all the time. Even if you do everything correctly, there might be somebody somewhere going, well, I don't like the fact that you got breached. It's too easy. You can't do anything about that, unfortunately. There's always going to be somebody. And it does require careful coordination to ensure messaging is consistent and sensitive. That's why having a business continuity plan checklist can be really useful under the pressure of an actual incident. Summary, you maintain openness with those who need to know, but you do protect the staff member's identity and avoid sensationalizing. Stakeholders see you taking responsible action, building trust. The ICO is notified if personal data was compromised and you remain absolutely compliant. So in this case, families are reassured that while a breach did occur, their data is safe and it's being carefully monitored. Staff know the lessons learned without blaming the individual, and the organization's reputation is largely preserved. Brilliant. So if we go on to the final round, please, Dan. So longer term solutions. So you've been through all the nastiness of the incident, and now it's a case of lessons learned, what we're going to deal with. So it's now a week after the incident. You've managed to contain the immediate threat, and communications have been handled for better or worse. Most of you voted for better, so fantastic. You now must decide the primary next steps to embed lessons learned across the organization. I think we hopefully mostly know that it's probably not going to be A, but you never know. You could just be having a really bad day. Crack down on staff mistakes and official policy of zero tolerance of breaking anything. Do you invest in cutting edge security technology? That's B. C, do you update the business continuity plan with lessons from the incident and conduct a structured review of what happened? Or D, this is the ostrich choice, the chance of this happening was already remote, so the likelihood of it happening again is almost impossible. There's no need to dwell on it, move on and focus on care. So if you're ready to vote, that'd be fantastic. I can see that now. I won't move towards my screen. I'll try and keep as crackle free as I can. Oh, this is incredible. Look at this. I say look at this. I don't know if you can see it, but most of you, in fact, the vast majority of you are voting for C at the moment, which is good. I do like investing in cutting edge technology. Obviously, we'll go through why that might not be the 100% answer in a minute. Which I'm giving it away and people are still voting. Pretend I didn't say that. It could be any of these. Could be the staff thing. Crack down on them. Let them know who's boss. Don't do that. Okay, Dan, don't know if you want to just give it a few more seconds, Dan. Perfect. There we go. Oh, this has gone up each time. You see, you're more and more confident the more we go through this. So that's fantastic to hear. Okay, so realize the time. So if we could just go forward to the first option, Dan. I don't think anybody picked this, and if you did, that's fine. I appreciate that. Crack down on staff mistakes. There are some positives. Again, it demonstrates to everyone that security is serious, and some staff will double check everything to avoid the penalties. However, the negatives to this: culture of fear, staff stop reporting near misses or asking for help, which you don't want. You want to avoid that as much as possible. Potential staff turnover if they feel anxious or unfairly punished. And incidents can go unnoticed or escalate since people keep quiet because they don't want to get into trouble. You can see that there's a bit of a theme here. Try and keep it blameless as much as possible. So you decide that any staff member who falls for phishing or makes a security error will face strict disciplinary measures. Staff are on high alert, but fear of punishment discourages open communication, and errors can be hidden or underreported. So you can see in this particular incident, after adopting zero tolerance, another employee noticed a suspicious link but hesitates to report it, where they'll be blamed if it's a false alarm. The link turns out to be a genuine threat and no one reacts until it's too late. A second breach occurs, exacerbating the damage already done. So hopefully we won't go through that one. If we go to B, please, Dan. Perfect. Invest in cutting edge technology. This on the surface seems like a good thing to do, and it's definitely not a bad thing to think about. Obviously, significantly reduces spam or malicious emails reaching the inboxes. That's one of the positives. Another positive is it signals to stakeholders that you're you're investing in modern security. You are taking it seriously. Negatives: just relying on technology can give a false sense of security. Over-reliance on tech can ignore the human vulnerabilities. I don't know the exact percentage, Naomi may know later, but it's something like 80% of successful attacks is through social engineering, whether that's through phishing, a phone call, something like that. It lacks any policy improvement or staff awareness training if you just invest in technology, and the high cost may not pay off if people are still easily tricked by social engineering. Social engineering, if you don't know, is just me pretending to be somebody I'm not to get you to do something that you don't want to do. So ringing you up and saying, "Hi, I'm calling from your bank. We've just moved your money to a safe account," all that kind of thing. All those text messages that you get saying, "Hi, mum," spelled wrong because it's based on Americans. They're saying, "This is my new number. Please send me money to get a taxi." That's kind of social engineering. In this particular scenario, you focus on buying advanced tools like AI-based email email filters, threat detection software, and robust firewalls. While these upgrades reduce many technical risks, staff remain undertrained on social engineering and policy gaps remain unaddressed. So in this scenario, a social engineer phones an unsuspecting staff member claiming to be from the new security upgrade team. Believing the call is part of the fancy new system that's been rolled out, the staff member shares their password. Scammer quickly gains access, bypassing all that amazing, expensive tech. So it's always important to have a balance. Having good tech is amazing. Make sure you balance that with obviously training and all that stuff. Cool. If we can go to C, please. So this is the strongest one, I believe, the strongest way you can do, and most of you vote for this, which is fantastic. Absolute positives in this: holistic improvement, both technology and human processes evolve. It encourages learning culture, staff feel safer reporting issues early, and increases resilience as your business continuity plan reflects real world lessons. As always, there are always some negatives, even with what I think is the strongest response. Time and effort. Running postmortems and updating documentation does require coordination and some time. And I know as a sector we can be time poor. Some staff might initially resist sharing mistakes, but trust does typically grow once they see it's constructive. With this, you organise a formal debrief where staff openly discuss what went wrong, why it happened, and how to prevent it. Key insights and improved protocols go into your revised business continuity plan, ensuring future incidents are handled faster and more effectively. So in this one, during the structured review, one team member reveals that the invoice looked normal, except for a 1 instead of an I in the email address. Don't know if any of you spotted that earlier. I did put it in there. By documenting these red flags in the updated BCP and staff guidelines, future invoice scams are spotted quickly. Staff gain confidence that mistakes can be discussed without blame. Excellent. So if we go to option D, this is sticking your head in the, again, there are some positives of ignoring it and being an ostrich, but the negatives massively outweigh it. But the positives are, there's no immediate workload, there's no extra planning, no meetings, no reviews into what happened. Just another day. You can have a cup of tea and pretend nothing's happening. Some staff might feel relieved to avoid rehashing a stressful incident. But obviously the negative in this, there's no improvement. The same or worse breaches will likely happen in the future. Staff confusion. People remain unsure how to detect or report any phishing, and potentially larger financial or reputational damage when a future incident inevitably occurs. And with this, you make no policy changes, no official review, no training. The incident is quickly forgotten. Staff remain unclear on how it occurred or how to prevent repeat. So with this one, with no formal lessons learned, the same attackers attempt another phishing scheme a few months later. Because staff never discussed or learned from the last breach, the scam succeeds again, costing even more lost funds and time. You are now on the sucker list. If you fall for something once, the chances are hackers or the bad actors will put you in a "these guys have paid." But well done, everyone. I think the vast majority you voted what I believe is the strongest option for all of those. So you're already there. I said, a lot of this is common sense. It's just trying to remember that when you're in the midst of an incident happening, because you'll have a million things going on at once. So if we go to some key takeaways, preparation obviously beats panic. Have a business continuity plan or an incident response plan ready. Test it regularly so you're not improvising under pressure. It's a difficult one to do, to find that time, but if you can get that in there, it'll really help smooth things over. Timely, honest communication. Hiding a breach rarely ends well. Clear internal, external messaging builds trust and reduces confusion. As I say, there's always going to be somebody that doesn't like the fact that you're admitting something, but it is much better in the long run. Support over blame. Culture of learning encourages staff to report mistakes early. Fear of punishment can lead to delayed reporting and potentially bigger problems down the line. Technology helps, but culture counts. Advanced security tools can fail if staff aren't aware or trained correctly. So make sure you combine tech solutions with policy reviews, training, and awareness sessions, a bit like this one. Continuous improvement. Use real incidents to update your processes. It doesn't have to be an incident that's happened to you. If you see something in the news or somebody in your village, your town, your city, your area has gone through something, speak to the CRCs about anything like that. Use that and think, how would we react to that if that happened here? And review what went well, what didn't, and feed those lessons back into your business continuity plans. Excellent. If you go to the next slide. So this is a bit of a personal one. So I did write this in third person originally because I didn't realize I'd be given the talk. So apologies about this. Crackly me over here. I was once a hacker. Probably not best to write that now that I realize Naomi from the police is here, but we'll skirt past that. So I used to poke around systems. I saw what I could accidentally break. I am on a good side now. I do know firsthand how easily small errors can be exploited and how people can be manipulated into doing things that they don't want to do. Some of these bad actors are masters at manipulating the sore points. They know what to put you under stress and pressure. So the lesson from all that is mistakes do happen, but the best defense is being prepared, reporting issues quickly, and knowing that you're never alone. There's always somebody who can help, even if it's just to say, wait, you did what? Just that feedback. So only awkward. The sooner you admit something's gone sideways, the sooner you can fix it and save yourself bigger hassles later. Strength in numbers. Have good relations with your IT supplier. If you're too small to have an IT supplier, use the Cyber Resilience Centre. Use us, Digital Care Hub. There is lots of free help out there, and we all absolutely want to do what's best for you. It could even just be that colleague who always finds you missing keys. All these kind of things really do matter in a crisis. And as much as possible, stay calm. Preparation, openness, and a supportive culture can turn that horrendous feeling into we've absolutely got this during an incident. Be prepared, but don't be paranoid. So thank you very much for taking part of this session. I think I'll pass it over to Dan now, as I'll move slightly towards my computer, ready for the questions and answers, if that's okay, Dan.
Yeah, fantastic.
Apologies for my crackling.
No, it's okay. I think it's been fantastic, Sam, since you moved backwards. I don't think we've had any other questions than the ones that came in midway through. But as we've got a couple of minutes, if any of you do have any questions, anything you'd like to ask Naomi or Sam, please do pop them in the chat or in the Q&A, and we'll be able to answer them for you. If you don't, there's also no pressure. There's no worries if this was a lot of information to take in, I'm sure.
Feel free to reach out away from this as well. I think we'll have our contact details. And Naomi, myself, all of us are happy to respond.
Yeah, absolutely. If you need any support with anything, let us know. We'll see what we can do for you.
So Paul's popped one in the chat there saying, once you're on the list as having paid, presumably that's for one of the ransoms, for example, the result then is that you would be targeted again, I suppose. And Paul says, FYI, we have not paid.
That's right,
I'll give
yeah.
a nuanced answer first, which is generally, yes, the criminals will see that you've paid. It's a good return of investment for them, so they'll do it again. Nuanced is it depends on the group, but you're getting into the weeds of different cyber attackers there.
Yeah, I can verify that as well. Yeah, absolutely. They will know that you're someone that can pay, so it's likely that they'll do it again, maybe in a month's time, or even sell your information on to other hackers who might be interested in having a try, knowing that someone else has had a successful payment from you.
And then Olelikans asks, is it very necessary to use a third-party application for security?
Not really, but it's really difficult to specialize in everything all the time. So if you have a third party who does specialize in security, it's probably better to use that because they will use the majority of their time to try and improve that, whether it's a product, a piece of software, or something like that. You can try and do it internally, but you need to learn a lot incredibly quick to try and do it yourself.
And just to add to that, cybersecurity, we say it's a layered approach. So applying things over the top of each other. So it could be, for example, depending on where you are on your cyber journey, that you might just be starting off with a password policy within your organization, for example. So you implement a policy, and then it might be the next thing, making sure that 2FA is switched on, making sure your update settings. So we talked about the WannaCry attack, making sure the updates are switched on to automatic. So every time there's a new update pushed through, the systems are updated that evening, for example. So it's applying different approaches and obviously determining what works for you. If there are systems and applications that might meet your needs better, so depending on your size, the bigger that you are, obviously the more complex it gets, will determine if you need to sort of invest in any sort of particular software that might help you manage that more efficiently.
Probably linked to that one, I guess there's another one from Kunle who asks, is there a way someone can easily determine false links and attachments?
Short answer, no. Longer answer, anti-malware will pick up a majority of attachments, and you can have anti-malware where it has holistic scanning, so it won't just look for a bad file, it'll look for patterns of what the program is meant to do. So if you've got a good, well-patched security anti-malware, that will help. Links you can hover over to see where it'll really go to, but because of companies using all sorts of different links now, that's not always 100% because there are some legitimate links that use. I can't think of any names now, guys, but the small links and stuff like that, where it shortens a URL.
It's so challenging. Even like if you think about Microsoft and Google, they're investing millions of dollars into cybersecurity, into the phishing to try and tackle that problem. And even from a personal point of view, my Microsoft account, there's still every day phishing emails landing into my main inbox rather than being filtered through to spam. So it just gives you an indication of the scale of the problem. Even companies that are so large and investing so much money into trying to tackle it. So the likes of us just looking at emails straight away on our own and trying to determine whether it's a dodgy link is quite difficult. So it's quite a challenge. But there is softwares you can use that will scan the links for you before they come to your inbox as well. But again, that depends on your investment, your budgets for cyber, what you've got to put into it.
But we've got a couple more questions coming. There probably might have to be our final few questions, but I'll pop something in the chat at our email address as well, just so that you can send anything over afterwards. But one of them, another one just came in as well. So one says, do you offer free scenarios to support conducting our own tabletop exercises? I can actually say nicely, as part of the Department for Science, Innovation and Technology funding, we've adapted some of the National Cyber Security Centre tabletop exercises. And in the Northwest, there's Liverpool's Social Care Partnership and Skills. At the moment, Liverpool's Social Care Partnership that are delivering 10 of those is a bit of a pilot, but we're hoping to be able to get some funding to deliver more of those. And as well, Naomi, I don't know if there's things that the Cyber Resilience Centre do in that space as well.
Yeah, I mean, security awareness training. So not necessarily a tabletop exercise, but we deliver awareness training. So more of a staff awareness, what to look out for phishing, how they can conduct their own cyber hygiene within a business and an organization. So raising awareness of cyber and resilience.
And then Rob asks us, business continuity plans tick the compliance box, but it's hard to make them a living, breathing document where the lessons learned are kind of absorbed back by the culture. And how do you bridge that gap if you're quite a time poor sector like ours?
It's really, really tough, Rob. It's just something that I think, and unless anybody else has got a better answer, it's just something you kind of have to force yourself to do and put the time in initially. And after about 3 months, it sort of becomes naturally part of it, just like you do fire escape, like things like that, and you do other things within care, like what you do in a power cut and stuff like that. Once you're forced to do it a few times and you've brought that time in and you put that time aside, it can also sort of become fun. This sounds awful saying it, but you can make it a little bit interesting. It's like, right, staff, what are we going to do if a meteorite now hits the car that we go and pick people up with? There's all sorts of stuff that you can do with that, but it is just initially forcing that time, and then it'll slowly become more culturally just normalized.
Yeah, I agree with that.
There's one more from Rob, which is, as more and more organisations and suppliers insist on multi-factor authentication, i.e. NHS Mail at the moment clamping down. If individual staff don't want to use their personal phones, how do you get around that without the expense of buying literally everyone a phone or some sort of MFA token device?
I'm all for tokens. I'm a very pro RFID token where you can scan it when you're in a geographic area or not. That's not always possible depending on your size or your area. But yeah, unfortunately, okay, I'm going to go off in a little bit. I know we've only got a minute, but passwords are terrible. Trying to remember 3 random words is fine when you're thinking about 1 or 2 accounts, but when you've got 50, it's really difficult, which is why multi-factor authentication is almost essential nowadays, because your password will get out there. You can check, have I been breached? And you'll see all the time that your passwords have been breached. So just as much as possible, if they refuse to use their own phones and stuff like that, try token, try key rings, try as best you can try and work things around it. Is all I can say for now. until we as a cyber sector think of a better way to do things like biometrics and stuff.
Well, and I think that brings us almost exactly to 3 o'clock. So I know there's a couple more in there, but we'll try and come back to you guys after the webinar. Thank you so much for sitting down with us today. Thank you for so much active participation. Hopefully this was a really helpful and informative session for you guys. Please let us know afterwards. And actually, we do have a quick poll, I should have said, just to be able to say, what's this worth your time? Would you do this again? Would you like to kind of be involved in this sort of thing going forwards? And would you like to subscribe to our newsletter, which has these sorts of events and so on in there? And so I'll quickly pop that up. Naomi's helpfully put the Northwest Cyber Resilience Centre mailing list in there as well, which is fantastic.
Thank you.
And do sign up and become a member of theirs if you're interested in this sort of thing and if you want that level of support.
Yes. We recently, on the back of one of these sort of inputs like this to the care sector, supported someone that was going through digital transformation, just reviewing some policies just to see if they were on the right track. So we've got lots of support and advice that we can help you with at various points.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, everyone. I'll end the poll there, and I think that concludes our webinar.
Thank you very much,
so much,
everyone. Really
guys.
appreciate it. We'll get back to you as soon as possible with those questions.
Thank you, everyone. See you all soon.